About transforming trig graphs. So a trig graph is graphs like y equals sine x and y equals cosine x and y equals tan x. Now, a regular y equals sine x graph, it looks like this, and you should have it memorized. It looks like it starts at 0, 0, goes to 90, 1, 180, 0, 270 minus 1, and 360, 0. So this is a regular sine graph. And what's happened is that this regular sine graph has been transformed to this new graph, and you can see it's got a new shape. And we can describe this transformation using these different values. This a in the front, so like basically the sign's been multiplied by a number, then the x value has been added or subtracted by a number inside the brackets, and then the equation's been added or subtracted by something at the end. And each of these a, b, and c's and a, b, c's values represents a different kind of shift in the graph. Let me describe what each shift represents. So the a value, the number being multiplied by sine or cosine, is a change in the amplitude. And it doesn't have to be a, it could be b. They can give you different letters. I'll show you in a sec. This plus b, so if there's a number being added or subtracted to the x inside the brackets, it's a horizontal shift. Shift, S for shift. And then this plus c, or minus c, outside the brackets represents a vertical shift. So in this question, you can see there's been 3 transformations and change in the a, b, and c value. Some questions there might be only 2 shifts, kind of like here. So is a number being multiplied by cos? So this is a change in amplitude, or the a value from last time. And then plus q, so it's a change inside the brackets, so that's a horizontal shift. That was our b value last time. So it could be different letters. Here, like, here, a for amp. So a has amplitude, plus minus b is horizontal shift, plus c, vertical shift. Here, a is a change in amplitude, b is a, actually we're not going to do this one. And then, anyways, yeah, ignore this, please. So, step 1, whenever we're doing this, we need to draw our regular sine graph, which I've just done already. You have to have this memorized. Step 2, we're going to choose which of these transformations to figure out first. Let's do the vertical shift first, because it's probably the easiest. So vert shift. How do we do the vert shift? What we do is we first draw the midline of both graphs. So if we look at our we start with our regular sine graph. Well, if the highest point's at 1 and the lowest point's at -1, the midline is here. And then for our new graph, if the lowest point's -1 and the highest point's 3, the middle of -1 and 3 would be 1. So our midline's here. And what we're going to do is we're going to look for a change in the midline. Well, the midline was at 0. Our new midline's at 1. It's gone up by 1. So the c value is +1. Now let's do our vertical shift. Let's do our horizontal shift now. The change inside the bracket. What we're going to do is we're going to look for the first minimum point. So we can find the first maximum points. I prefer to find the first minimum points. So the minimum point represents the lowest point on the graph. So for our regular sine graph, the lowest point on the sine graph is here. For this shape here, the first minimum point is over here. The lowest point on the graph is at -1, and it's the first -1 value. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at, and so we can see here, for our original graph, the lowest point is at 270 on the x-axis. On our transformed graph, the lowest point is at 0. And we're going to look at the shift from 270 to 0. Well, it's subtracted by 270. Now here's the thing, when we do horizontal shifts, we do the reverse. So if it's -270, our b value will be +270. That's just how it works. Cool, and that's a horizontal shift. Now we got to do the amplitude, our a value. Let me just get rid of this. So amplitude is also known as a change in the height. So what we're going to do is let's look at the height of our regular sine graph. Well, the highest point's at 1. the lowest point's at -1. So this graph has a height of 2. Now let's look at our transform graph. Well, the lowest point's at -1, the highest point's at 3, so therefore it's got a height of 4. So the amplitude has doubled, so our A value is going to be 2. Now it might be -2. We got to figure out which one it is. Let me show you how we do it. So when we think about a let me just delete all these silly. When we think about a sine graph, as you can see here, a sine graph starts from the midline, it goes up, goes back to the midline, goes down, goes back to the midline. We can kind of draw it out like this. So it starts at the midline, ends at the midline. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw the midline for our original sine graph. So our midline's here. And so our sine graph starts from the very, very beginning, and it's going upwards. Now, let's draw the midline of this graph here to find out where it starts. So it starts at so the lowest point's at -1, the highest point's at 3. The midline will be at 1, because 1 is in the middle of -1 and 3. And yeah, so our graph will start here. So remember, a sine graph always starts at the midline. And have a look, our graph is also going up. Now, since they're both following the same pattern, it stays as 2. If the graph was going downwards, which is counter to what our regular sine graph looks like, it would be -2. We'll look at an example of that later. So that's our answers. Our A value is 2, our B value is 270, our C value is 1. Let's do this one over here. So let's start by, so step 1, we have to draw the cosine graph. So draw y equals cosine x. So our cosine graph, it starts at 0, 1, goes down to 90, 0, 180 -1, 270, boom. So you have to have this part memorized. So let's start with the vertical shift, this plus C on the outside. Shift. So what we do is draw the midlines for both graphs. So for our cosine graph, the highest point's at 1, the lowest point's at -1. So the midline is here at 0. This graph, its highest point is 2, the lowest point's -4. It's in the middle of -4 and 2. I think in the middle of, we can just count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if it's got a height of 6, we're going to go 3 down instead to find the midline. 1, 2, 3. So this is the midline. And yeah, that's perfectly in the middle of both the lowest and highest points. So our original midline was here, our new midline's here, so that we've gone down 1. So our C value is -1. Let's do the horizontal shift now. So let's find the first minimum values for each of these. So the first lowest point is for our regular graph is this. The first minimum point for this graph here is down over here. So for this, so our original graph, it's at 180. Our new graph, it's at middle of 1980, which is, I think that's 135. So what's happened? It's gone from 180 to 135. That's subtraction of 45 degrees. And remember, when we're doing the horizontal shift, we always go to reverse direction. So our B value is actually going to be positive 45. All right, so let me write that down. So positive 45. And then our A value, our amplitude, so that's our change in height. So the height of our cosine graph, the highest point's at 1, the lowest point's at -1. It's got a height of 2. This one's got a height of 2. The highest point's at 2, the lowest point's at -4. It's got a height of 6. So the original height is 2, the new height is 6, times by 3. All right, so we know our A value is going to be 3 or -3. Way to figure that out. Let me just get rid of these lines so we can figure that out. So let's think about a cosine graph now this time, guys. So a cosine graph, it starts from the maximum point, it goes down to the midline, it goes to the minimum point, it goes down to back to the midpoint, it goes to the max point. So it starts from the max point. And from the max point, it's going You see it's going downwards. So let's find our max point. So let's find our maximum point on this graph here. The maximum point is here. And as you can see, it's also going downwards. So they're both following the same pattern, so it stays as positive 3. So our A value is 3, our B value is 45, our C value is -1. This one over here, y equals A sine x plus B plus C. Okay, so step 1, we're going to draw, we'll do another color. Y equals sine x. So starts at 0, 0, 91, boom, 270 -1, 3. There you go. All right, let's start with the plus C, the vertical shift. So let's draw the midlines for both. So for our original sine graph, it starts highest point's at 1, lowest point's at -1, so the midline is at 0. Here, our lowest point's at 0, our highest point's at 4, so the midline is at 2. So our shift has gone up by 2 spaces, so our C value is 2. Let's do our B value. So let's find the first minimum points for both of these. So for our graph, the first minimum point is down over here. For this graph, the first minimum point is down over here. So here is at 270. Here's at 135. The middle of 90 and 180 is 135. So from 270 to 135, we've minus 135. But remember, we do the opposite. So, H shift. We do the reverse, so 135. And that's the change inside the bracket. So that's our B value. So B is 135. H shift. And our C value. Then now our A value, our amplitude. Change in the height. So for our original graph, the highest point's at 1, the lowest point's at -1. So the height is 2. This graph, the highest point is 4, the lowest point is 0. The highest point is 4. So from 2 to 4, we times by 2. So our A value is going to be 2 or -2. We have to figure out which one it is. So remember to do that, we're going to first realize, okay, a sine graph always starts from the midpoint, goes up, goes back to the midpoint, goes down, goes back to the midpoint. So let's first find our midpoint of this graph so we can find out where it starts. So the lowest point's at 0 and the highest point's at 4, the midpoint's at 2. So, and the first midpoint, so our starting point will be over here. So in a regular sine graph, as you can see, it starts by going upwards. What's happened for our graph? It's going downwards. So now we can say, since they're going in the reverse directions, we say -2. So our A value is -2. Boom. And that video is all done.